welcome back to Party Chick Astrology. I'm Nina.
I'm Shaina.
And this is the, my voice cracked like a little prepubescent boy singing Lone Room from Oklahoma. And this is the 10th house planetary placement video.
If you missed out on our 10th house and astrology video, which is just an overview of the 10th house, that'll be linked down below. So this is the video for Sun through Mars. We're just doing personal placements in this one. It's going to be too long, so the generationals, which is Jupiter through Pluto, will be up next, and when it is, that link will be down below as well. No, we're not doing Ceres, Lilith, or whatever asteroid you're asking us in the comments. We might get to that later, but that's not this video.
This video is long enough already.
Yeah,
you can probably see.
Buckle in, this video is gonna be so long.
Like always, we will have timestamps below for the specific planet placements if you only have Sun and you just want to watch Sun and you don't want to watch the rest. But I would urge you to watch the whole video, just because even if we're talking about a placement that is not the placement that you're watching, sometimes we just have another thought of, you know, this relates to all 10th house placements, and we'll stick it in there. You can follow the timestamps, you can watch the whole thing.
Plus, something that I think is even more relevant to the 10th house, because the midheaven does make such a big thing, is whatever the planetary ruler of your midheaven, you're gonna probably relate a lot to that planet as well, even more than most. There's of course going to be some things that are a little bit different, but I think it would be a very relevant thing in this video to, you know, if Pisces midheavens, to watch Neptune in the 10th house.
Yeah.
Our readings are in stock. You can get them down below.
Yes, and while you're over there and you're like, I don't have any planetary placements in the 10th house, what's going on with my 10th house? We have a blog post on our website, partytrickastrology.com, that breaks down all of the 10th house cusp rulers, as well as all the other houses 1 through 9, and they will continue to come out 11 to 12. We're almost in the home stretch.
I don't think we're ever going to finish this. I feel like I've perpetually lived in this house.
It's scheduled.
Series.
It's scheduled, Shaina.
This is also a video that's supplemental to our astrology course. More information about that is down below. It'll start after the house series. We have a Party Trick Astrology Instagram, which we only update whenever we post a video, which is annoying, but hey, if you want to know when we post something.
Or when readings are in stock.
Oh, yeah.
Or the controversial topic about whether I like rice or not.
Alright, so we are going to start with Sun in the 10th house.
I regard it as a pretty great position, because
Yes.
people with their Sun in the 10th house, generally, everyone that I can think of just has this amazing charisma about them. People enjoy being around them, people notice them.
They're a presence.
Yes.
They're not somebody that's going to let themselves be unknown. Even if this is somebody that's quieter, you're still going to be aware of them. They're still going to make a lasting impression on you. Another big word, I think, for 10th house Sun in a weird way is like awareness, because 10th house Suns are very aware of how they present themselves, aware of how they come across, and this can be to a fault, because typically I used to think like 10th house Suns have all of them have giant personalities. They're all willing to really put themselves on display, and that's true for a lot of 10th house Suns. But there's also the thing that can go the opposite way, as we'll kind of mention throughout this video, of just the hyper awareness and being so kind of self-conscious to how you're coming across that you can be so obsessive and trying to really perfect your image.
Just being too purposeful. Because your Sun is your sense of self, and almost tying your sense of self too much to even a brand. Too much to a image. I always think of how on America's Next Top Model, Tyra would always be like, you need to encapsulate your personal style, and this has to be your thing, your brand. What's your adjective? That's you.
Right.
And people with a 10th house Sun can really get into that mentality of,
What's my adjective?
yeah, and how do I come across as this specific image in all ways, always. But also, that can become a positive when that focus becomes on creating a great character, of never doing anything outside of this person's character. Sometimes it's I'm the sarcastic one, so I've always got to throw in a sarcastic comment. Sometimes it's I hold myself as a good person, so I only do good person things. Sometimes it's like I'm sexy, so I just gotta always be sexy.
Right. You can get caught up in not being, you know, your name. You know, like I'm not being Shane anymore, I'm being this adjective, I'm being this image, and like, oh, I'm a prep, so I must always look and act like a prep. You know, even if I like something that's not preppy, I can't possibly imagine buying it because it's not within these confines. 10th house sun, your father very much was the breadwinner of the family. He worked a lot, and he really influenced you to have a great work ethic, really care about your job, really climb the ladder. Probably had a job where he was of some sort of authority or just a good position, and possibly, you know, worked before he was a parent. As in, like, the level of hierarchy, you might have felt like you came second to your father's job, or just whoever represents the sun more in your life.
Sometimes a 10th house sun can just get caught up of less who am I and who am I to other people.
Yeah, how am I seen?
Yeah.
I know one 10th house sun who can't talk about anything but their job. And it kind of drives me crazy, and it kind of blows my mind, and they can only think of things in terms of their job. And it's just like, well, what about your life? Well, what about you? Well, what about this? And it's like, yeah, but well, bring it back into my career, bring it back into my job, bring it back into this. And that's because, like we said, the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, so you do have a lot of Capricorn-like qualities if you are a 10th house sun. And one of those big qualities is not really being able to own whatever thing that is in Capricorn is above Capricorn until about the age of 30. So this is also somebody who might not have much confidence possibly at the beginning of their life, and then when they get older, and as they get older, they really grow and mature like gracefully and just peak when they're 30, become the position boss status that they've always wanted, and really shine.
This is also the kind of person, because of the climb to the top kind of nature of Capricorn, who will have a bit more of, whether it's conscious or subconscious, a little bit more of a competitive edge to them.
Yes.
Not necessarily like, I've got to beat this person well, but me being a very Libra 7th house person, like, there's no point in comparing. Oh my god, my dad's a Libra, and he would always say to me, comparisons are odious. I don't even know what that means necessarily. So I, as like a little kid, was just like, comparisons are bad, no point. But even like as an adult, I'm like, there's really no point in comparing. Like, if someone likes this person but doesn't like me, it's just like, it's not a reflection on me, it's just a matter of taste. Whereas I've really seen 10th house suns get into a spiral of like, well, what does this person have? I mean, if they just like, this
taking
person
everything personally
can't possibly be better than me, I'm great, or like this person, it's just basically
comparison is huge. And taking everything personally is huge. You know, especially in your workplace. Like, you shine at your workplace, people really like to hire you, which is a great thing. Whatever field you're wanting to go for, people really will be like, just more wanting to hire you because you have this bright shining light on the workhouse and your public image, and so you're just very hireable, and you probably seem like a great presence to have around, a very responsible, hardworking presence. And I found that even sometimes people with 10th house suns, they can be some of the worst workers, because it depends on the rest of their chart if they're actually good, and then look at their 6th house, look at their Mars, exactly. And you might be like, how did that person get hired? Why are they in this position? And it's like, they have a 10th house sun, and that's it.
Yeah, we went to drama school, and so that kind of like translation would be like, cast them as the lead.
Right.
This person's the lead.
10th house suns are always going to be the lead, or even at a job, they're always going to be the lead,
You translate it to whatever makes sense to you. I've even heard people say about 10th house suns, like, well, what's really the big deal about this person? But then your reaction is just like, it just is. Like, this person is just the lead.
And it's because the sun is so bright and shining and big and happy, and they're just really able to just have a presence, and it's so positive most of the time that you just can't help but notice them. I mean, if you have an intercepted sun, you might not be relating to as much of this.
And as a 10th house sun, you probably are just always striving to be the lead.
Yeah, be the best.
That's just
whatever you do.
What's expected of you, and for that reason, you can get a little hard on yourself, because it can just be expected of you to be the lead, or to be the boss, or to
live in your dad's shadow,
get tenure, get what else is important in other fields, pass the bar. Like, I don't know.
These things are expected of you, and people can hold you at a very high regard, because obviously they're like, oh, you must do great, so then you must do great, and so people don't really cut you as much slack, and you don't cut yourself as much slack, and your dad probably didn't cut you much slack, so you kind of can be very much on yourself.
I think what it all comes down to is like high expectations. So these people have high expectations for you because you have the ability to fill them, but sometimes it can get overwhelming. But at the same time, with these high expectations comes a high regard for you, comes as a likability upon you. I just find 10th house signs like so likable.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they work very hard on being
likable.
But
yeah.
also because it's Capricorn, it's not always necessarily going to translate into being likable.
Right.
I think
It
in
depends on the sign.
our field of like actors with 10th house suns, like they want to be likable.
Yeah.
But maybe in a different field, it's not about being likable. It's just about getting to the top.
I do know like a Virgo sun in the 10th house, which isn't somebody that's going to be the charmer, you know? When they are likable is in their workplace by guests. This is a person that maybe they're not good with the social stuff, but they know how to talk to guests, they know how to handle these scenarios, they know how to do their job. Again, it doesn't really necessarily likable in a social sense, it could just like, it's the 10th house, it's work. Likable in a work sense in that kind of environment. And obviously, this is something that's at the top of your chart, so it's going to feel like you can't really touch your sun as easily as other, you know, as somebody with it in the 4th house, that sun is right there in them and they feel like they have a deep connection. You might feel like your sun's a little out there in the ether, you don't have much control over what it is, how people see it, how you see it.
That's why it can just be a bit of a disconnect and it becomes more of this molding this image kind of thing. This kind of Tyra Banks, like your adjective is candid, your adjective is lovable. And then you think to yourself, okay, let me influence all of my behaviors off of this brand.
At the end of the day, this is a very, very good placement. Yes. If you look at a lot of celebrities' charts, you'll see the repetition of sun in the 10th house, and those people that have sun in the 10th house having a very good reputation. That's not saying that they have a clean history or something, but that's just saying that they're just well taken.
Yeah, and even despite it all.
Yes. Despite it all,
they're
well
likable. People like them anyway.
Them.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to get in the way of their reputation. Like, it's kind of just a promise for success.
Yes. And it might take some time, and it probably will take some time, and a lot of hard work and grit.
It's kind of like what we said in the 10th house video of just, it's not necessarily that you're going to get a sticker and a pat on the back for everything that you do, but that's because it's a process to working hard in order to get to the top, in order to get to that success.
Moon in the 10th house. Now, this one isn't as happy as most 10th house placements, I'd say, because the moon is ruled by Cancer, so naturally, it's more happy in the 4th house. That's not to say that this is a bad placement by any means, because honestly, I kind of think that anything in the 10th house is pretty cool. The moon is such a vulnerable, personal planet, right? It's our most inner self, and so it's just very kind of almost intimidating for a person to have that out in the open, on display, shown to everybody. And this is somebody who probably grew up with their private life always being shown public. This is somebody that could be, you know, with a famous mother, you know, so they're child stars, you know, their entire life has been broadcasted. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but something along those lines. Even if you just lived in a small community and your mom was a principal of a school and so everybody kind of knows your business.
Or a religious community and that your mother was like the minister.
Obviously, with Moon in the 10th house, you have such an inner drive for success. That's what you need at your deepest core is success, status. You know, you need to feel emotionally fulfilled by your job.
Yes.
More extreme than most people. And your job can really emotionally drain you. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what you want and what makes you feel good.
Yeah, and it's also a deep need for your emotions to be recognized. It's unintuitive because it's almost like your moon is only fulfilled if it's on display. You know, it can be hard to deal with your emotions on your own. These can be the kinds of people who, as soon as something emotional happens to them, they need to get on Instagram stories and talk about how it is. It's almost a self-sacrificing of your emotions for the sake of sharing for the greater good. It can get overwhelming, honestly, for both people. For people listening all the time to everything that you have to say about your emotions, and obviously is coming out of a sincere place, but it can be a little overwhelming for people always taking it in. It can be also very overwhelming for you because there's this restlessness with keeping your emotions to yourself. There's a need to project them on a public platform, and honestly, the best way to kind of do that is to find a career in which you are sharing your emotions, where you are capitalizing on your nurturing nature.
This is somebody who probably had a mom who, put their work above being a mother sometimes. Or, maybe you had a single mom and she had no choice but to work all the time. And, you saw her grinding and working so hard, and that instilled a strong kind of spirit in you to go after what you want and, climb that ladder and really focus on work. But it can be very draining, of course, to always have this on display, because you're going to be so sensitive to people's criticism. Mm-hmm. You are the ultimate person that cannot handle haters, cannot handle just negativity being thrown your way. Even energies, this is somebody like Moon in the first house will be very receptive to the people around you. So will you if you have Moon in the 10th house. And who you work with is very important. You're probably like to be in a working environment with a lot of females, or people that are more nurturing and caring, just because you respond best to a soft touch.
Yeah, especially because the moon is a very vulnerable position.
Yes.
And when people see vulnerability and they have a desire to mess with it, they are the type of person who sees the opportunity to capitalize, to exploit someone's weaknesses. You might find that it's a combination of, first of all, you're quite sensitive, so you have a hard time dealing with people coming after you and haters and all of that. Mm-hmm. But also, you might attract people who can see your vulnerabilities easily because you're kind of an easy victim, mm-hmm. having your moon at the very top of your chart and having people read your emotions like that. And I mean, like, whenever you're bullied in school, people will say, like, they're only going after you because you elicit a reaction. They just want to get the reaction from you.
That's Moon in the 10th
house.
Yeah. Also with Moon in the 10th house, we'll say a lot of times the 10th house is put on. But I think that with Moon in the 10th, it's a little different. I think that your kind of life goal or mission is try to not put on an image. Mm-hmm. It's try to really show people your authenticity. And that's where you'll find success. When you are true to yourself in your job and your career, online or whatever, that's going to make you so successful. These are the kind of people who would be those rare people on social media that share their struggles, share what's going on with them emotionally, and done in a mature way will get nothing but positive response and can really help people get through stuff and nurture people. Like, these are the kind of people that, like, would put together a fantastic TED Talk. And really hit a lot of people and make a difference in them, as long as you are staying true to yourself, because I think that nothing's more obvious than when a moon in the 10th house is being inauthentic and fake. Mm-hmm. Because it's just like, dude, we all know who you are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you also are going to have your emotions written all over you too. Mm-hmm. This person doesn't have moon in the 10th house, but Trisha Paytas has her moon trine her midheaven, because I was like, this bitch is gonna have something. Yeah. And so these are the kind of people to literally just like, turn your camera on and cry. You know?
And get famous from it,
and just kind of, and have that be your therapy.
And honestly, capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a very good action statement for the 10th house, is that whatever's going on in your 10th house, you're capitalizing on it.
For sure.
And I know that phrase kind of has like a gross connotation to it, but
it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it can easily.
Yeah.
Depending on the element it's in. But I would say most elements, except for maybe water, will really try to control their emotions with moon in the 10th house. Yeah. Because again, Capricorn, Saturn, it's on display. So you might feel like you always have a block, especially growing up, over really letting yourself go. Because if you cry, you're going to have to pretty cry. You don't want to ugly cry, Yeah. You can't let yourself go because you can't look bad. You have to look good when you're crying, Or like if you get angry, you can't get too angry and upset people, because your moon's in the 10th house, and how people are feeling is really going to affect how your public image is feeling.
The 10th house and Capricorn is a lot about lessons.
Yes.
So it's very practical and will take whatever is given into a way to strengthen itself. So having your moon in the 10th house, you have a really good practical approach to your emotions. I mean, like, it's debatable on whether that's really good, because Capricorn moon is in its detriment. But a positive thing that you can gain from it is having this attitude towards your emotions of, this is something that I can learn from. And if anything, it's going to give you a bit more of objectivity, because obviously the 10th house is opposite the 4th house. So it is so far removed from your inner objectivity, really. And
or lack thereof if it's in the 4th house.
It's so far removed from yourself and what you're so caught up into and get lost in, because it's just like all you know. You can just have a more Capricornian, practical, controlled perspective on what your moon is doing if it's sitting in the 10th house. And then use that objectivity, use that perspective to strengthen yourself and to grow yourself emotionally.
Like we keep on mentioning, you're not gonna really like own it and mature and reach what you want until you're older. And sometimes it's not even 30, sometimes it's 60. You know what I mean? What could happen is that to be emotionally fulfilled and feel good about yourself, you need some sort of status, you need some sort of success, you need some sort of thing that you can say to people when they ask you what you do that makes you feel good about yourself. And you won't really get that probably until you're older and mature and been through all these experiences, because the only way that you can get to that point that you want to is be kind of put through the ringer and go through a lot of stuff. And so you can feel very emotionally unfulfilled for a lot of your life, because it is so dependent on success and status. Once I get here, I will feel good, you know?
But that is inherently the nature of Capricorn. It's this mentality that is American, very capitalist. You should not be proud of anything that is handed to you. And that the taste of success coming from nothing. The taste
American
of success,
dream.
the taste of success comes from hard work, and there's so much wealth shame or status shame of people who are born into wealth, of people who are born into status, of people who get what other people might call handouts. And so the Capricorn American dream is coming from nothing and tasting that sweet taste of success after a lot of years of hard work. So that is just inherently the nature of Capricorn. If it were, your emotional fulfillment comes from what you have once you've worked for it, once you've
you've made for
climbed up a bunch of other people, really gotten to the top of the mountain, you know?
Mercury in the 10th house. This is somebody who's going to probably be a pretty good public speaker, will, you know, do something in their career with words, you know, something Gemini or Virgo-esque. These people talk a lot normally. However, it can, of course, with anything in the 10th house, go the other way of being so hyper aware of what you say and how people take it that you just wind up not saying anything at all. Or, again, I feel like that's going to be more of an earth or water placement, or if you have retrograde or intercepted Mercury, whereas if you have like a fire or air, you know, well aspected Mercury, there's going to be chit-chatting all the fucking time. Probably always get in trouble in class for just chatting it up with your friends.
Yeah, with Mercury in the 10th house, you want to capitalize on your intelligence. And you want your intelligence and your communication skills to be what gives you status. So that's where insecurity can plague you, because if you want to capitalize on your intelligence and you want your intelligence to be what gives you status, you need to make sure that you are truly more intelligent than a lot of other people that you had to climb up and pass the mountain on.
Yes.
You know?
And this is truly, I think, a very intuitively Capricorn placement with the Mercury in the 10th house, because what's more dignified and status oriented than getting somewhere in your career through your intellect, through your smarts? You know, it's not through, you know, your sun just being likable.
Yeah.
It's not through your Venus being pretty. It is through your brain and your brain only. Mercury always has that dual aspect to it. So this is somebody that, you know, can possibly start some shit at work, be maybe a little bit of a liar, but it's a liar through white lies. It's a liar because you're just trying to appear your best. So, oh no, you know, in reality, you were late because you overslept and are hungover. You would, you know, somebody might just be like, yeah, I was hungover last night. Mercury in the 10th house wouldn't do that. They would tell a little white lie. You know what I mean? Very much distort the conversation or contort it to how they want it, because they need to always appear intellectual, even to the point of pretending you know more about something than you really do.
Yeah, this person could have a great resume that really would stand out, or even not necessarily stand out, but just be very
Impressive.
good, very impressive. but in an attempt to stand out, in an attempt to be the best, they might just extend, you know, the outlines of what exactly
they did
is on their resume, what exactly they did, what level exactly they're at of this, that, or the other, you know.
Probably growing up, your family placed a great importance on your intellect and how smart that you were, or you just come from a very smart intellectual family, very talky, very chit-chatty. This is also a big indicator that your family placed a big importance on your intellect and your smarts, or you just come from a very smart, distinguished intellectual family. I almost think this can somewhat be like a posh position, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like a very typically British position in the sense of, you know what to talk about, you know what not to talk about. You know, this is okay to talk about in this scenario, and this is not okay to talk about in this scenario, and oh no, we don't talk about that here. And oh, and if you read this recent book about blah 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 blah, you know.
You know what's funny is
just this is a stereotype of not being serious.
It totally makes sense. And also in Portuguese, the word for polite and the word for educated are the same. So that kind of all ties in the same mercurial theme. If you are smart and you are educated, then you know how to talk to other people, how to be polite, how to be well-mannered.
You might do something along the lines of public speaking, teaching, writing, journalism, or again, anything with your, like, a Virgo-y career, like, smart, you know, or all those genius ones.
Even on the Gemini side, you could be a interviewer,
E-news correspondent.
Exactly. Entertainment Tonight.
And of course, again, there's that Capricorn aspect to it. So there's definitely that block to it in the sense of not saying everything you want to say and being very picky with your words, making sure you have a good extensive vocabulary and using the perfect word that, you know, perfectly fits in the place of the sentence. If your Mercury is negatively aspected and just not very happy, you may be unfortunately known for how stupid you are or how stupid people perceive you. And it could get to the point that you get so self-conscious and whatever you say people take wrong or people laugh at, or it's just so much on display how stupid you are, how stupid people think you are, that you just wind up not talking at all and get really quiet and really silent. Or people can just pick apart every single word you say, and people place so much emphasis on your words, and you're always listened to almost to a fault that you just get so self-conscious and try to not talk as much.
Again, it's that same thing of educated being the same word as polite. You want to put out your words in a way that is so sophisticated, that is so correct, that is so diplomatic to other people, that is the exact right word that encapsulates exactly what you are trying to get out of your brain and communicate to the other person in a way that is polite and effective. Because people who might not have the same standard of being polite will come across as uneducated sometimes, will come across as not smart, will also inject a lot of what they say with unnecessary fluff or unnecessary low-brow hits, you know?
Right.
Whereas a Mercury in the 10th house wants to just address the point exactly and no funny business, you know?
Right.
Polite and diplomatic and get the point, no funny business.
No extra fluffy language.
Yeah, no extra fluffy language, no need to hit below the belt, just professional.
Like, no fart humor for me.
No. I mean, I do think you're a whore, but I won't say it because it delineates from the argument.
Honestly, these people I found can be pretty judgmental because they really do judge people based off of what they say and how they speak to a fault, to where if they don't think somebody's intellect is at the point they should be, it will discount them. And intellect, I think, in the traditional sense. You know, intellect in the sense of, do you know science, do you know math, can you read and write? Not this creative kind of intellect.
It all comes down to because they hold themselves at such a high standard. It ends up rubbing off on their opinion of others.
Venus in the 10th house. What a lovely placement.
Yes, but I also think that Venus in the 10th house is the most prone to social anxiety, just because Venus is all about social graces.
And charm and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Venus in the 10th house is somebody who's going to be known for their beauty, known for their charisma, known for their charm. I find that people with Venus in the 10th house, even if they have a very introverted rest of the chart, this can bump them up and make them much more extroverted. I know somebody with a Virgo rising, and you wouldn't typically think this is somebody who likes to approach people, who likes to just, you know, go up to any group that they they want, but they have Venus in the 10th house in Gemini, and so
Right.
that gives them such more of a social push. You put your beauty above everything. How pretty you are is very important to you, and if it's not pretty, if it's in a more, mercurial or whatever placement, then it just might be how well you get along with people.
Yes, how social you are. Like we reiterated 1,000,000,001 times in our Venus series, Venus is how you love and what you value.
Yes.
So when it is in the 10th house, you can value yourself based on how successful you are, how well liked you are, how much other people see your beauty, and you can also hold your romantic interests to a very high standard. Similar to Venus in Capricorn, in that maybe you will be attracted to people who are older, of people who have a power distinction between you, not in a Scorpio secretive kind of way of like, oh, I want to date my professor, but in a, this
Status.
person has a higher status than me, and I value someone who is like that,
I think the perfect example of somebody with Venus in the 10th house, and it shows very perfectly through the career, is Lizzo. She's the Venus in Gemini in the 10th house, and I found Lizzo years and years ago, and she was doing this interview, and it was just basically completely about, it was before she really had much music out, about how self-conscious she is and how much she struggles with her weight, and just she was at a very low point at the time that this was recorded, and she was, you could tell she was struggling with seeing any hope, and it was all of her issues were completely stemmed in the way that she looked like, and she knew that, and that's what made it even hurt for her more, because the rest of her chart is not a superficial chart at all. She's like all Virgo and Taurus. And then seeing now, what is she known for? She's known for being this big, confident energy, loving herself, really Venus in the best light.
Honestly, she has like this big self-care mood in her songs. A lot of what she's preaching is about beauty, not because she's an Instagram model with a G-Wagon, but because
self-confidence.
Self-confidence
self-love.
and
And it took her so long to get here, and she always talks about how she's still working on it, and she'll be forever working on it. And it makes sense that when she was a teen, that interview, and now she's probably like in her mid-20s, I assume. I'm not sure. But now she's like, grown a lot, and you can see her grow and grow and grow. And it just makes sense, that journey, because that's such a Capricorn thing, to really go from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high.
Yeah, again, anything in your 10th house is going to be something that you hold at a very high standard, or that other people put a very large sense of importance on, so that you kind of hold it to this position of the top of the mountain, the top of the chart. When you hold something to such a high standard, that's where insecurity can come about. That's where someone can become more aware of all of their
Hyper-aware.
body flaws, of, things that other people would never notice, how asymmetrical their face might be, this, that, and the other. And these people also end up sometimes being that way towards other people. Not necessarily in a mean way, but just in a very perceptive way of like...
What you're most aware about in yourself, you're going to be very aware about in other people.
Exactly. I know someone who has Venus in the 10th house, asymmetrical kind of face, and like in a cool...
Tyra Banks would love it kind of way.
Make it fashion kind of way. But then he was talking about this girl, like, oh yeah, this girl has totally lopsided eyes. I'm like, what? She's gorgeous, but she has lopsided eyes. She should probably get that fixed if she wants to go anywhere. That's what he said.
What? Venus in the 10th house also will want to be kind of conventionally magazine attractive. So these are people who also, like, if you're not this white, skinny girl, you're this, like, buff guy, you're not gonna really be happy with yourself. Or you're going to spend a lot of time curating and loving and accepting the differences in yourself, because you do want to be that conventional version of attractiveness, and not everybody with this placement is. People with Venus in the first house might be, and those are the kind of people that you probably want to look like. But Venus in the 10th house doesn't mean that you're conventionally attractive, it just means that's heightened, and people will see it. But this is somebody who has a lot of social grace, a lot of charm, will be liked and loved and adored in their workplace, and really just looked looked upon somebody as such a nice, loving, kind energy. Unless it's like, badly aspected or not happy or something, that, you can get into some trouble and blah, 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 blah. Or like, if you have like Venus square Mars, then your social awkwardness will just be what's on display. And you might be like, I don't have any charm, my social awkwardness is on display. Well, that could be why. This is total MILF position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Getting hotter when you're older.
Yeah.
And really growing into your attractiveness. And like, this is somebody who, when you're younger, you might have been like the runt, but when you're 30, you're just gonna outshine everybody, and people are gonna be like, damn, they glowed up. What a glow up position.
Yeah. Maybe with Venus in your 10th house, your mission really is to redefine standards of beauty, because the 10th house is all about, the standard, the top, what is the most liked, and all of that.
Or you could just fall into being a model. And just being the conventional version of attractive.
One way or
the other.
It totally justifies that whole trope of models are insecure too.
Right.
Models pick themselves apart too.
Because Venus in the 10th house definitely does. You probably want to be in a career with the arts, maybe with more feminine, people, fashion, interior design,
but also like Taurus cuisine.
Oh, yes.
Gourmet. High quality.
Food indulging. Oh, these are people who love to, when you get money, Venus in the 10th house will go out and buy a Chanel bag. That's what you're going to do. Status to you also has to do with status in the way that your wardrobe looks, in the way that you present yourself. These are people that are going to go and get their nails done every week,
But specifically with it being in the 10th house, it wants to be at a high caliber.
Yes.
Cuisine, not Panda Express, not PF Chang's. If you're going to be a chef, you're going to be a chef at Crossroads on Melrose.
This is really another great position that shows a lot of success. I think of like Sun and Venus being kind of the top two personal planets that are really going to get you a lot of good stuff in life. If you can work with the positives of it and not get caught in those negative, self-conscious, obsessive qualities.
And Venus, more than Sun, not just success in terms of position, but also popularity.
Oh, yes, that's huge.
There's a bit more star power there, because you can obviously be very successful being the head of a law firm.
Right, but nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, whereas Venus needs that popularity, that likability, that the shininess of it. It needs just a little more
pizzazz. This is also going to be somebody who's very much, married to their career, in a relationship with their career, or in a relationship for the image of it. I'm high status, they're high status, we're in a relationship, or I'm not as high status as I want to be, let's go and find somebody who is, that we can look good together and boost me up. This is somebody who, if you're in public, you're going to want to hold this person's hand. You're not going to want to, Pluto in the fifth and be in a secret relationship. You're going to want to put it on display and make sure everybody knows who the fuck you're fucking.
Yeah, and then your relationships, whether it is romantic or not, your relationships are likely going to be a catalyst for your career. People are gonna get you places, or they're gonna boost your status, and that will lead you places.
What a big Venus in the 10th house, probably an air Venus move, was when Jeffree Star and that whole friend group broke off, and they posted that picture of all of them without him, and they're like, we're doing better without you. That's a total lower level Venus in the 10th house move, their friendship was so on display. Everybody knew it. They looked hot together, and then they were like, no.
It's the cheerleader effect.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Where it's by yourself, you don't look very good, but when that group of hot people, the hot people look so much hotter.
Yes.
And lastly, for this video, Mars in the 10th house. What a powerhouse. What a workaholic. Workaholic. Everybody that know what this placement is a workaholic. You will kill yourself through work. My mom almost did.
I think more than maybe any other except for Pluto, this really speaks to that capitalist American dream of no handouts.
Yes.
I get my success from my hard work, from me pioneering, going through it, and maybe taking down anyone on my way up the ladder.
Yes, very much ruthless, wanting to get to the top. And because it's
Motivated.
Aries, and because it's Aries and Scorpio energy, it's probably going to be the least Capricornian, as in, climbing up the ladder. Mars in the 10th house, if the person's the kind of person that wants to climb up the ladder, that's what they want to do. But it alone doesn't really give a shit. It just wants to get to the top, fight its way through, whether that's Aries and just slamming your way to being the leader, or if it's, more like Scorpio, manipulating people and using people to get your way to the top.
It's less tactful than Capricorn typically
Yes.
is, and 10th house energy typically is, just because there's very little tact associated with the archetype of Mars. Perhaps if your Mars is in Libra, that in the 10th house, it's a different situation.
Like I said, big workaholics. These people never stop moving, never stop going, and their work ethic is very much on display. So if you have a great work ethic, then everybody knows you for your work ethic, and everybody's like, wow, I want to work with this person because they never stop, they go, they're such a good person in the workplace. Or if you have a really lazy work ethic, then you're going to be known for that. And that's going to really stick you in the butt because everybody knows this person's a lazy person to work with. But what's interesting with Mars in the 10th house is that even if that person, like something like Mars in a water sign, is going to be a little lazier just because they're only going to do what they feel like doing. They're going to be like, I don't feel like doing this today. Mm-hmm. Or I feel like doing this today, so I'm going to work, right? So maybe, you're not as hard of a worker, but you're going to appear still as a very hard worker. Nobody can master the art of taking secret naps at the workplace better than Mars in the 10th house. Just like power nap, nobody's gonna see me. It looks like I'm still doing something. Go. Your bosses know you as somebody who works.
And that kind of aggressive energy is what's on display for you. And kind of your roadmap to success was laid out to you by your father, or by whoever, as just be aggressive. Just be aggressive. Be aggressive.
Both of them.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. You've got to go. You've got to just plunger through.
I mean, yeah.
Just gotta plunger through. And that's how you get to it. So in a lot of ways, this is the image that you cultivate of yourself, and this is where your motivation and your aggressiveness shines, is in this image that you cultivate of, I am this aggressive go-getter. It's your brand. It becomes aggressive go-getter. Tyra Banks would give you the adjective passionate, or Tyra Banks would
driven.
give you the driven, motivated.
I like how Tyra Banks is our our girl. With Mars in the 10th house, not only are you known as a workhorse, but you're probably known as somebody who likes to fuck, is pretty sexual, is kind of always going after people, even to the point where you are not going to be somebody who's scared to tell somebody that you like them.
Yeah.
And even if you have a more timid Mars, you might not be able to relate to that aspect of it if it's in the 10th house, because you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I might, dwell or think about it for a while, but if I like somebody, I'm going to go after them at the end of the day. It's also because people know who you like. It's just obvious. Like, you basically have, a sign on your genitals pointing to the person that you want to fuck,
Yeah, and it also comes down to my image. My sense of self is your sun, but your brand. Mm-hmm. My brand is aggressive.
Yeah.
So, if I like someone, to fit my brand, I gotta tell them.
Yeah, this might be somebody who's like a professional boxer, you know what I mean? Or it does some kind of fighting aggressive thing, usually an athletic career.
Yeah.
Like, even my mom has this in Leo, and she was a dancer.
And why? Why in every high school movie trope, the jocks are the sexy ones, the cheerleaders are the sexy ones? It's because it's all Mars.
It's Mars.
It's all
energy. Mars. Mm-hmm. Mars, also, like we said, the jock or the popular person. This won't put your intellect on the high point. This is definitely gonna put your energy on.
Yeah, it's like the entire premise of sports scholarships.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's Mars in the 10th house.
Mm-hmm. Your parents probably really worked a lot, and you saw them really hustling. This is a big, American dream position, as we said, and so you know how to hustle. Yeah. This is somebody that would, stand on the street corner and just know kind of how to sell their stuff.
Yeah, and the whole premise of, I'm gonna make it for myself with my Mars abilities. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get myself my education and thus my status through my Mars.
Yeah.
My football abilities.
This is also most likely to fight authority. most likely to want to be in a position of authority and fucking just get in trouble with everybody that is an authority. You're gonna be seen as a leader, you're gonna wanna be a leader in the workplace, and anybody that is a leader, you're gonna wanna challenge or question, and you're not gonna take authority as it's being kind of handed to you. If somebody's like, hi, I'm authority, you're like, great, prove yourself first. You know, you're not gonna be like, great, I'm gonna kiss your ass. Unless your Mars is in like a manipulative kind of sign, whereas you're like, oh, that's how I get to the top, right? But in your hardest of hearts, you're not going to accept somebody's authority just because it is.
I'm running with the sports scholarship theme. It's also your father being like, you must be manly man.
Right.
You must.
Even as a female, you kind of display more masculine qualities, and you might be seen more as like
the son your father never had.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'll do that, Dad. Yeah.
I'll go to the baseball games with you.
Oh my
Dad,
God.
approval.
Oh my God, keyboard warriors, especially in an air sign. Just you are going to fight it out on social media, and you do not know when to not go after someone. I kind of suspect that Jeffree Star might have his Mars like in the 10th or in the 11th, like cusping it somewhere. You know, he can't help but just go into the drama and, you know, dive headfirst into it. Mars is so compulsive. Mars can't stop itself. Mars can't say no. You know, you're not gonna be like, be the better person and don't respond. No, you're gonna be like, fuck you, you fucking, this is why, and I'm gonna expose you. You are exposed.
There definitely also has to be something going on in that area because it's not coming from his Capricorn moon.
Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna get into a lot of arguments with people. And the way that you hold yourself in the arguments is very important to you. It's hard for Mars to be self-conscious unless it's in a self-conscious sign. Do first, think later. You know, whereas Mercury might be like, oh, I don't wanna, you know, talk because of the consequences, so I'm not going to. Mars is going to say what it needs to say and then feel self-conscious about it. It's not gonna have the forethought to like censor themselves in the first place.
If anything, the self-consciousness associated with the 10th house with Mars particularly in it is a self-consciousness of your physical vitality, of how aggressive you are, of how manly you are, essentially, even if you're not a man, just like those kind of attributes. There's a competitive nature. Even if it's not in a sports way, even if it's your own fitness of, oh man, I only worked out 6 days this week. I'm not great.
Yeah.
I'm not the best that I could be. And that's where you that's what you're holding at a high standard, is your physical vitality in a lot of ways, is your aggressive man-like attitude, your motivation, how much you're doing things for yourself versus how many handouts you get.
And not only do you want to be known with Mars in the 10th house for your physical vitality, but also your sexual vitality. And it's very, very important how people view you sexually. And this is somebody who, if you're not being pursued on a consistent basis, or you're being turned down, it will very much affect your self-confidence and your self-image, and it will be very hard to feel comfortable with yourself. And these are people who, you know, will be posting sexy pictures online, and you know, might have Finsta with up all these nudes, or selling nudes, or just to do porn. You know what I mean? This is a very likely
capitalizing
placement
on your sexuality.
Yeah, because you want to be seen as a sexual person. Getting that sexual affirmation is so important to you. Okay, so that is Sun through Mars. We will be doing the generational planets next, which is Jupiter through Pluto. We just know it's going to be too long.
And we got plans after this. It's a Sunday. We try to
go to a vegan festival, guys. And look at how well we matched, dude. I mean, like, we matched a lot, but like, this is very much. That's legit. That's legit. Thank you so much for watching. Again, the links to the other videos will be down below, and when it's up, the link to the generational video will be down below as well. And we hope you enjoyed this video, and you will see us next time, because you're gonna watch the next video too, right?
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.